Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it is Thursday. It's July 1st. We're starting a new month today. This is also going to wrap up our week. No chart lessons on Fridays. Uh, the July 4th holiday, I think it actually falls on Sunday, but they're going to celebrate it on Monday. So the markets will be closed Monday. No trading on Monday. So it's going to be a long weekend. I won't be back until Tuesday of next week. Then we'll have a short week next week. Maybe things will pick up. We actually had a little movement today. We finally pushed through this 4,300 a little bit, and we actually had two legs up here. What looked like was going to be a range day. You can see we had some strong resistance here. Originally, I had this up here, but notice that the resistance started to form across here right around 4302, and we finally pushed through and had a measured leg up. We actually went a little bit higher. You can see the measured leg there, and we actually pushed a point or so higher there. But that would have been a great target. Once we push through, that's what I would look for. And you can clearly see we had this spike and channel up. So that's your first leg. And then there's a clear two-legged correction in there before. This is actually off a little bit here. Should look like so. But we had that leg down, a close outside, a new low, and then we reversed. And we had the second leg up. And it's basically two nice measured legs up. So nice trading day. You can see 5 o'clock just hit and the market started back up. So it does close at 4 and reopen at 5. So I can't remember if we decided on that yesterday or not, but the market closes at 4 now. So you can see I have the gray is actually goes to 3 o'clock now. And you can see from 3 to 4, there was nothing there. If you tried to trade that, you might have been in trouble. You might have taken a short there and been able to be okay. But if you tried anything else, you were probably in trouble. I mean, that whole last hour trading, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, maybe 8 bars there. So not much going on. So don't try to trade that stuff. And that's why, because if you get stuck in that, you just don't have time to do. You don't have time to make it up, and a lot of times you don't get much movement. But yeah, for now, I do have the trading going from 8:30 to 3. I'm sorry, 8:30 to 3, and that gives you time. That gives you an hour to wrap up any trades or whatever. And you can see sometimes you'll get a lot of movement, a lot of volume after late in the afternoon. But obviously on this day, not so much. So a lot of people are probably getting ready to start their long weekend holiday. Tomorrow could be a great day, but if it's like a lot of pre-Friday holiday trading, there won't be much going on. So be careful tomorrow and just be aware of the fact the market might be slow. But you can clearly see the early range, but we broke out and traded higher. So I'm going to zoom in here a little bit and we'll talk about today's trades. A few more trades today. There's some decent setups today, and then we'll move forward. You had to be a little patient this morning. 7 o'clock came right over in here, but we're just going sideways. There's no room to do anything there. You could look at this as a failed second entry short right here. So that's a possible long. I don't think I would go long one tick above that. You might let it break higher and drop a limit order back where you would be one tick above that bar going on the engulfing. And I wouldn't enter on the engulfing bar there because it could easily turn up right there and turn right back down, which it did, but it probably wasn't enough to get you out of your trade. So the issue is you don't know that this wouldn't happen a few ticks earlier and you get stuck and stopped out only to see it go higher. So this is a little iffy trade. Generally, you want to see these reversals set up at the EMA, and we're just not back to the EMA. We really didn't even get back to the top of the resistance. We bounced just a tad above that because this is actually like so. And if you look there, if you remove the arrow, you can see we didn't even get back to that. So it's just a little iffy setup. But you would expect the second leg up, and that's giving prices up to here, which is exactly where we went on these first two legs. But in the big picture, this spike and channel up was a leg, and then the two-legged correction there's might be the center of your pattern. It's hard to believe that's going to happen at this point when you're looking at the chart right here, but that's what happens. And once we break higher, that's what you got to assume is going on, that we're making that second leg up. So, but anyway, you might enter long there. But if you're just patient, a few minutes later, you're working down, you get a first entry, then the second entry. I like this trade. It pretty much confirms the trend line here and reconfirms it on a after. There's actually a little channel working here. I didn't draw it, but you can see prices are working down. And you get a close outside a new low, and then prices reverse. It's not a perfect bar. This one, you could almost argue for this to be yellow, but it's also pulling back. I don't have this all the way over here, but you can see what that is. We came back and we test that spot once, then twice, and then go higher. So that's another reason I like that one. Gives you that little double test. So you've got the resistance acting as support twice. You've also got the trend line and the EMA all acting as support. That's not a perfect signal bar, but it probably closes in the top 1/3. And you can see most people really like that setup, and it takes off again. We run up back to the other side of the channel, and we just work back across. Unfortunately, you don't get a good setup this time. By the time you get back, when you bounce off the trend line, you got that big bearish bar. You just can't enter there. And then you run up here, and you don't even get back to the trend line. I drew this blue box and this red arrow just to remind myself to talk about this, because a lot of times I'll get to rolling on these trades and forget little nuances that I mean to talk about. But notice how the last few times we came right off the trend channel line, which is the other side of the channel. The trend line's on one side, and whatever's on the other side of the trend line is the trend channel line. So notice we tried 3 different times to go up there and couldn't get to it, and then we turned down. Well, that's telling you, hey, we've got some weakness coming in here. The fact that we're probably going to get a measured move, an equal move. So if we don't make it back up there, we're probably going to overshoot the trend line some, and that's exactly what happened. So that would tell you to be very careful. Even though there's a first entry there, by the time the second entry actually triggers, you've got all that congestion anyway, so you shouldn't get fooled on that one. But there is a little inside bullish bar right there. Let's make it a little bigger. And there's a hidden second entry, but if you're looking at the clues, you'd want to say, hey, I better wait on a true second entry here. And by the time it comes, you've got too much congestion there. So, but if you're just patient, a little while later, you notice you got a low, you got a first entry, then you break out and you pull back and you got a second entry short. You might say, hey, this is a double bottom, I want to count this over. But the odds are we're going to try to make that new high, and right here you got enough room. So, and you're probably going to have some shorts trapped. So I like entering right there. You definitely, if you count that as a double bottom, you got a failed second entry by here. But by that time, you don't have room to get out where you across all this resistance here. And at this point, your resistance really looks like it's right along here. So you got to be really careful. The final high is up here, but you can see a lot of closes right across right there. So you got to be really careful now about entering again. You could argue for this to be green because you might let it break higher. Technically, when it broke above this bar is when you could call it a failure. So you may let it break higher and drop a limit order back, and you could still have room. So if you did it that way, and you could get filled, which you could have because it comes all the way back here, then you could enter on this one. So I'll mark it green with the understanding of how you'd have to enter that. You couldn't enter on a buy stop up here. You just don't have room now. It wouldn't have mattered, but you don't know that in advance. I just think it's awful risky. So the trap, you would think right here would have carried it on, but it didn't. And so you had to be real careful about once it's going sideways like that. So you actually get a pull back and one more attempt to go higher there, but I don't think you want to go long on that. So you've already had your close outside and a couple of swings to a new high now, so it could sell off at any time. I actually like going short here because you made your new high, tried to go higher once, twice, and look how everything closed right at that same resistance line, right where we made that high right there. And so I like a possibility of a short right there. And the key is you might let it break lower and then drop a limit order in because it could bounce at that EMA. You see how you get a little support there, but a couple of times, but ends up pushing on through. So this one is a little bit aggressive, but it's a possibility. And if you don't enter there, you don't get a chance to enter that little sell-off, but that's clearly 2 legs down. And then we quickly bounce. And notice what happens. You get up, you get a first entry short, you get a second entry short, it fails. And so you can go long 1 tick above that bar right there. It's actually right there is where the signal bar should be because it's a failure when it breaks above that bar. So technically that little 2 bar matching low is where your swing low is. So you could mark either one of those bars. It doesn't matter. Still the same thing. So we run back up, and of course we continue to find resistance there, and there's just no way to enter in here. It's just too tight. There's not room to scalp out in either direction. And even when you tend to look like you're getting a breakout pullback, you still got the main highs from the channel that you can see. That's the blue line across there. So just no way to enter that trade. Runs up, but if you're patient, a few minutes later you get a first entry and then a second entry long, and you get a nice signal bar down here. I like going long there. You get a high or low here. I marked this one green because the signal bar is kind of iffy, but the key is there's only 3 ticks in that signal bar. That's about as low risk as you can get off a clear trend line on a high or low after a second entry. I think it's worth taking, and you can see it quickly takes off there. And you got to figure at this point we're headed higher. And it runs on up. You don't get another chance. There's a failed second entry short here, but it doesn't set up properly. You want it back here at the EMA or off the trend line or something. So this is possible. This is a little bit lower here. You run back and you get a first entry, second entry, but you're just going sideways. By the time that triggers, that's congestion. And so you just don't get a chance to enter. And then you get the little failed breakout. That one's tempting because technically this just expands a little bit, like right here. If you do the measured move, you can see that when it breaks lower, it makes a measured move down, and we kind of stay inside that measured move. So you might, if you want to be aggressive, you might take that trade. Again, it's very low risk, 4 ticks on a failed break lower in an uptrend. So you might take that trade. There's a high or low here, but you're right back into the highs right there. So I'd wait on the failure, which comes here. That's a reversal pattern. You're back above the EMA, and you still got plenty of room back to the highs. And after that failed break lower, you would expect we're probably going to go out the upper side anyway. That's what they do a lot of times. When you get stuck here and they can't go higher, they let it fail out the low side, and they use that to trap people, and they use that trap to push it to the new high, and that's what they did there. And so I like that. Failed second entry short, and then it just kind of gives you a second opportunity here. Just make sure you got room to get out before those highs. So you might have to let it break higher and drop a limit order a tick or so back to make sure you got room. Again, you could pull that over like so. So just make sure you got enough room to get out before those highs. It probably won't matter, but you still have to assume that you could hit it and turn down a couple times before you get through. So in this case, it just shot right on through. They were running the stops at that point. People were trying to pile up on the shorts here, You were real close to a measured move, and a lot of people are just trying to get short off that, and they're not paying attention. They don't understand how prices will react on a breakout like that, that they'll probably fail and come back before they actually sell off. So all these top pickers that were getting short in here, thinking they were smart, going short here, suddenly all their stops get run and they're all exiting, and that's what rockets it up real quick. And that's probably why you get an overshoot rather than just meeting your target right there. Again, that's the measured move target. Here was your first leg up, and then your two-legged correction is right here. Notice you come down first or correction, then your second leg down, and then we start the next leg, and your measured move is right there where that kind of orangish line is. And we went a little, in the end we went a couple of ticks higher because they used a trap to get it up there. And that's why this rockets up again. All these shorts pile up in here, and when it starts going higher, they realize, oops, I made a mistake. This thing isn't done. It probably did the same thing right here. Notice how that rockets up. That's the beauty of what happens is all these people start picking. That's why you don't pick tops, because you don't want to be these guys. You want to be taking advantage of the people that don't know any better and try to pick tops. It's a losing strategy. You'll never make any money picking tops. Sure, you'll get one every now and then and you'll make a big pop, but 9 times out of 10 you'll lose. And that's what happens here. Same thing. They start piling up the shorts, they reverse it, and the shorts realize, oops, I made a mistake, and they all exit, and it rockets it up. And once all of them have exited, it just kind of loses steam again. So much better day today. Even though it looked like it was going to be a range day, we got some actual movement today. So a few more trades today. Again, I don't know what to expect tomorrow. We'll have to see. But anyway, a little better movement today, a little more volume today, at least up until about 1 o'clock. After about 1 o'clock, there wasn't much happening anymore. So we did get this little failed break and the trap that ran everything higher. So you did get a late afternoon opportunity. It would have been after 3 o'clock or after 2 o'clock in most cases, but you got a couple of trades out of that today. At least one good one, maybe 3 if you want to be aggressive. So anyway, that's what I saw today. That's going to wrap up our week. Won't be back till Tuesday because Monday's a holiday and no chart lessons on Fridays. But I hope you have a good 4th of July holiday. And we'll be back again next Tuesday. But I'm done for today and I'm done for this week. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com. And we'll see you next time.